So you've decided to outsource your pay-per-click marketing. That's great. But finding someone to manage your company's PPC is a daunting task. You're apt to encounter slick sales pitches, a wide range of pricing and fees, and an endless sea of online taskers who say they can do the job. So how do you navigate it all? In this video, I'll go over 7 questions you should ask companies or consultants you're considering for paid search management. I've been doing PPC for over a decade, and I've seen it from both sides. I hope this lesson helps you choose the best agency or consultant for your business. Question 1. What successes have you had? To ensure that a PPC consultant or agency has a proven track record, ask for specific examples of success. In this case, however, specific does not mean in your vertical. So, for example, an insurance company doesn't need to find an agency with specific insurance experience. What matters more is your company's goals and online business model. So, if you're a software as a service, you want to ask for subscription examples. E-commerce sites should seek online sales successes. Brick and mortar businesses should look for local business case studies. And content and video channels should ask for traffic growth reports. Knowledge about your specific vertical is nice to have, but it can be learned over time. What's more important is that the PPC agency brings the right experience for the online goal. So for example, I had a client that sells collectible gold coins. Do I know anything about gold coins? I mean, not at the outset, no. But I do know how to market an e-commerce store. And when you're choosing a PPC agency, that's more important. The client can teach me about gold coins over the course of the partnership, and he did, and I can bring my experience in e-commerce to him and his business. Question 2. How long have you been working with your clients, and may I speak with them? Longevity in client relationships speaks volumes about trust, reliability, and communication. In high-volume PPC agencies, customer churn is built into the system. In a smaller company like mine, I prefer to build long-term relationships, even if it means a shorter client roster. And I'm really proud to say that some of my clients have been with Charles Ave Marketing even before it was formally incorporated in 2013. That being said, every relationship has to start somewhere. It's okay if, for example, you ask for a customer success story like we discussed in question 1, and you hear that the client is a newer one. Value the agency's honesty. But definitely ask for customer references and take the time to contact them. Any PPC agency that is hesitant to share references should be viewed with some suspicion. After all, if no one will attest to how happy they are with the agency's performance, you likely won't be able to either. Question 3. How do you determine your pricing? Agencies rely on different pricing models. Some agencies charge a percentage of your advertising fees. Some charge hourly rates or monthly retainers. Others might consider performance-based payments, and sometimes it's a combination. There's no right or wrong answer, but the agency should be able to tell you how it arrives at its pricing. So for instance, at Charles Ave Marketing, I have never charged a percentage of fees. And my reason for that is simple. I don't work for Google, I work for you. And spending more isn't always the best advice I can give. So when I find savings, it doesn't impact what I make. I can save you money, and then optimizing your marketing budget becomes a win for both of us. But even if an agency doesn't charge a percentage of ad spend, hourly and monthly rates vary widely. So like any professional service, you'll need to use your judgment to figure out what works best for your business. Now, I'd like to use the trope about getting what you pay for, but it only really applies at the low end of the pricing spectrum. Higher fees don't always translate to better service. The best way to know is to talk to the company's references. See if they think whether the agency's fees are worth it. Question 4. Who will be managing my account? Now, buyer beware, some agencies lie. And I know this firsthand. Agencies will sometimes ask me to run campaigns for their clients in a freelance capacity. And sometimes I have client interaction, and sometimes I have none. Without client interaction, an agency's account manager liaises between you and the person creating and optimizing your campaigns. This client-facing manager acts more like a salesperson or an administrative assistant. He might only have a cursory grasp of PPC and won't be able to answer your specific questions. This can often cause communication to break down between the client, the account manager, and the freelancer. But direct freelancer to client communication sometimes has its perils too. So in one case, an agency owner told the client that I was a full-time employee who had joined his company several months ago. He issued me a company email address and he asked me to go along with the lie. I protested because any Google search of my name would reveal that it wasn't true. But he brushed off my concerns. So during my first phone call with the client, she asked, how do you like the company and what were you doing before this? What's your title? And these are all reasonable questions to which I gave truthful answers. She didn't like the agency's dishonesty, and I didn't like having to expose it. So look, using freelance talent is fine, but the agency shouldn't need to hide it. I mean, sometimes a freelancer is a seasoned professional like me, but more often the freelancer is someone the agency found a few days ago on a site like Upwork. So whoever it may be, interview that person and understand what you're getting into. Because no agency should have a reason to hide the people they're trusting to manage your business and your money. Question 5. What budget do you recommend? Before choosing a PPC agency, you might already have an estimate of what you can spend on paid search. Or you might have a number in mind that you've spent in the past. Even so, you should ask the agency for its thoughts on your budget, whether the ad spend is adequate, too low, or might be more effectively spent on another channel. This question is useful as a gauge for how the agency might answer your questions in the future. It demonstrates the agency's knowledge of PPC and how well the team is able to explain it in terms that you can understand and believe. So if they say you're not spending enough, listen to the explanation and see if it makes sense to you. Ask for recommendations on alternate channels where you might get more bang for the buck. If the agency says the budget looks good, ask what you might expect in terms of traffic or sales. But be wary. Anyone who promises you hard numbers without saying we'll have to run some live tests first is probably BSing you. Now, some agencies have a minimum budget before they will engage with your business. In my opinion, that's fine. But a minimum spend isn't a good justification for a proposed budget. The proposed budget needs to have reasoning behind it, and you should feel comfortable with those reasons. Question 6. What's your communication style? Finding a PPC management company is, in essence, searching for a business partner. So you should understand what your interaction with the agency and its team members will be, and vice versa. You really want to make sure your communication styles mesh well. The agency should recommend a regular schedule for meetings and notifications. So for example, with one of my local clients, I check in weekly by email to report the latest spend and revenue numbers and share any status updates. Then we meet in person on a monthly basis to go over the previous month's performance, to look at year-to-date numbers, and discuss ideas on a big picture level. Explain to each agency what your own communication expectations are. So for example, are you okay with email, or would you prefer the ability to call or text your manager's cell phone? Are you comfortable with video chat, or would you like someone to come to your office? Having open lines of communication is important on both sides. So express your point of view and find a partner who can accommodate your preferences. Question 7. What percentage of time and resources goes to PPC versus other marketing channels? This question is an offshoot of question 1, but here's why it merits its own explanation. Many agencies will tout themselves as full-service one-stop shops. This sounds wonderful in theory, but not always in practice. Too often, SEO agencies try to manage PPC accounts unsuccessfully. While SEO and PPC are related, they are two different disciplines. You could be a masterful SEO mind, but that doesn't mean you know the ins and outs of PPC. So sometimes SEO agencies will approach me for an AdWords account audit because they don't understand what they're doing wrong in the PPC realm. But by the time that happens, client money has already been wasted. So as you're figuring out a PPC agency for your business, understand how the prospective agency's expertise is divided between SEO, PPC, social, email, and any other channels. Some agencies really do have dedicated and knowledgeable teams in all aspects of online marketing. Most, however, rely on freelance and contract help in their less represented areas. This is entirely fine, but again, transparency is everything. You should know if PPC is a core part of the business or if it's just growing and how. After all, if your business is going to be another company's experimental foray into PPC, aren't you entitled to know? When PPC is not your expertise, it can be intimidating. There are technical terms and jargon that you may not understand. And I'm sorry to say, but the industry is full of dishonest and/or incompetent players. So it's worth it to do some homework before making a commitment. Read information online about PPC so that you have some familiarity. Review the questions I discussed here. Talk to several agencies. Follow up with the references they provide. Kick the tires. Yes, it's a lot. But if you do it right, you'll only need to do it once because the PPC agency you decide on will be a partner for months and years to come. Good luck on your search.